Hello, hello, and welcome to the final episode in this mini series all about how to take the steps to build sustainable behavior change. Oh my gosh, this is just so exciting. One, because I love the layout of this because it has officially been 4 full weeks since I started collecting data and really assessing my own behaviors. So I love the fact that I can walk you through this and share the insight of where I currently am and in my progress and tapping into values-based decision making. So this final episode in the series is really bringing everything together related to our values, which is essentially connected to our bigger why and our deeper purpose as to why we want to make these changes in our life, why we want to no longer do certain behaviors, or we desire to do more things in our life. It all comes down to that bigger why and that bigger picture. So before I dive into that, I wanted to just do a little recap of this whole mini series because it has been so fun to share this process with all of you. And honestly, I highly recommend going back to episode 30, which was the step one for this mini series, which dives into baseline data. But really, just if you are on the edge or the cusp of wanting to take the leap, wanting to figure things out in your life, wanting to better understand who you strive to be and who you want to become and what you want to stand for as you move forward in life, because what you did, years ago, what you did months ago, what you did yesterday is all in the past, and you get to decide how you move forward, what you want your journey to look like going forward. There are so many layers that you get to choose how you move forward on everything. And that's the beauty of this process of building sustainable change, is having that growth mindset, being able to look at certain obstacles and certain situations and being able to constantly reflect and not make that mean anything about you. So I'm just going to quickly walk through the past 4 episodes and then get into today's topic. So step one was all about building your baseline data. So that one is such a fun episode. If you go back, as I said, to episode 30, I gathered my own baseline data for 10 days. And if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're not watching this on YouTube and you're listening through Spotify or Apple, highly recommend going to watch that episode in particular on my YouTube channel, because I share my screen and I show you the visual data. So that was a lot of fun to show all of that with you. And I gathered all of the baseline data of what my current habits were and where I currently was at in my day to day, because there were certain behaviors, like old behaviors and old patterns, that I fell back into, and I wanted to reassess and get back on track. And so I gathered a new set of baseline data. And the beauty of this process is you might be on a healing journey in a season of life where you are like very gung ho about self-development and you are on track, you're doing great. And then there's either big changes or life situations or a transition, things going on in your life, and you might fall off track for a bit. Those are times that, once again, does not mean anything about who you are as a person. It's really about giving yourself that space and grace to say, yeah, that was a time that, I fell off track, and that's okay. It's because you're human. Falling off track is actually a part of the process. And when we allow ourselves to accept that and know that, okay, there's going to be times where I am not going to be 100% perfect every single day, especially with my plan or tracking my habits. Like, it's it's not meant to be like who we are as humans. Like we're not robots, right? Like, so falling off track is normal and a part of the process. So if you take your baseline, you track some habits, you make some progress, and then you have some things happen and you fall back, you can redo your baseline assessment and be like, you know what? I'm just gonna actually like see where I'm currently at with these behaviors just to see like where do I want to go from here? And a lot of the time when we think about sustainable behavior change, we have to remember like where we currently are at, because if I went back to a habit that I was doing when I was in my like prime best season of life, where I was like super active and doing all the things and really accomplishing a lot, but I was in a much slower or harder season of my life, I'm not going to expect that version of me from the past where it was like a really like, powerful season where I was doing a lot and taking on a lot and accomplishing a lot. If I'm in a different season, I'm going to allow myself to look at realistic expectations and realistic goals for where I currently am at. So that's why taking baseline data is so, so powerful, because it helps you start exactly where you are today and this week so that you can build from that version of you. Not from like 3 months ago, Sonia, who was like crushing every habit and like working out so much and doing all the things, where I might not be in that season right now. And so allow yourself to redo your baseline assessment if you ever move through this process. So that was step one. It was a really fun episode. You get to see all of my baseline data of my behaviors. And then step two was assessing and really reflecting on all of that baseline data and seeing like objectively without judgment, just looking at the numbers and just looking at, on paper, this is what's going on. And then choosing 3 specific habits that are related to 3 specific values of essentially what I would like to embody going forward. And that's when you make a plan. So that's when I started to track 3 specific habits and 3 specific values. And then step 3 was weekly reflection. So this was the next step. And what was really fun about that episode was that, actually, I probably jumped too quickly. So episode 31, if you're wondering how to really support yourself in moving through, how do I analyze this data? How do I understand where to go from here? What does that look like? How can I make a plan? Episode 31, which is step 2, assess and make a plan. That is where you can get all of that information. So hop to that episode and go take a listen. And then, episode 32, which is step 3, all about weekly reflections. If you are on your behavior change journey and you are wanting to create a sustainable approach to really achieving and supporting yourself with these behaviors that you desire, there has to be a reflection process. And that's why a coaching container and a coaching space is really powerful for this, because for instance, I have 2 packages, one that's a biweekly check-in form and another one that is a weekly check-in form, depending on how much support you desire. And that just really helps, because you can't go on this behavior change journey without constantly reflecting on what went right, what didn't really work that week, and how you can adjust and take note of the obstacles that you face, and not making those mean a bad thing about you and that you fell off and you're shitty at keeping these habits and all these things. That's not it. Really, like, a growth mindset is definitely intertwined into all of these pieces and all these episodes in this mini series, because when we take the time to look at our week and be able to reflect and say, you know what, like, I slipped up a few days this week. Why was that? Like, actually giving yourself the space to take ownership and have that radical responsibility for your own actions and say, okay, there were obstacles or there were things that happened this week that, got in the way of me completing these habits. What were they? And what was going on for me in my mind, in my body, in my environment? What were the factors at play? And when you can pinpoint those, it goes back kind of to that baseline data where you think about you're building awareness of where you are and what is standing in your way, so that once it's in your awareness, the saying, like, once you know better, you can do better. And that's exactly what the intention is with a weekly reflection. So that is episode 32, step 3. Last week was episode 33, all about step 4, which is kind of looking at the bigger picture. So that one, I didn't really give any specific personal information about my current behaviors that I'm tracking, because I wanted this episode to be more of a monthly reflection to share now that it's been 4 weeks of me tracking. And so last week was all about progress over time. And it's really tapping into the mindset and the process through this journey. And this one was all about a big perspective shift of what you place meaning on through this process. And if you are fixating on a specific outcome, or if you're fixating on the past and past patterns and behaviors, or even just past beliefs, all these things that can really have an impact on your progress over time when it comes to sustainable change. And a big part of that is, instant gratification and external validation. Like, there's a lot of pieces that can be intertwined with our expectations of what we think should be happening, when in reality, it's really looking at our day-to-day progress in the little things that make the big, massive changes over time. So with all of that said, that essentially is a little recap of episodes step 1 to step 4. And now today, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see me like looking down because I'm looking at my phone to look at my data. I wanted to go through and just share my own reflections overall of the past month of tracking, and just looking at the data to see what's going on and what, as I said earlier, like what obstacles are getting in my way, and connecting this with the bigger picture, my bigger why. And so let me just start by, reminding you all of what my habits and values were. So I was looking to do about 20 minutes of mindfulness, and the value that was attached to that was being present. And then I also wanted to do 20 minutes of movement, and the value attached to that habit was being active. And my last one was making sure I got 8 servings of water in the day was my third habit. And the value that was attached to that was being. Sorry, my computer like paused for a second there. And now. Okay. My computer paused for a minute there. So my 3 habits are 20 minutes of mindfulness, 20 minutes of movement, and 8 servings of water. And then my 3 values are being present, being active, and being healthy. So I'll start with my movement. So this one was interesting. So when I look at the past month, my average was just over 15 minutes. So my goal was 20, And on average, my goal was about 15 minutes. So this was actually really great to see because, and also, I mean, you can't, or I was showing it on YouTube. You could kind of see it. What was interesting about this information was there were days where I did nothing, and then there was days where I did like well over, like I did like an Orange Theory class, which was like 60 minutes, which was like triple my goal, right? And so I really wanted to fine tune what movement meant because I wanted it to be related to active movement throughout the day that was not related to, exercises. So I realized like when I included Orange Theory, I feel like it drastically spiked my data. And in that process, I realized like, okay, if I'm including this, this is definitely going to like increase my average when there was a lot of days where I did like 0. And I really wanted to make sure that I was actively moving my body consistently in whatever way that looked like. So like walking, simply just getting up from my desk more often, and taking more breaks and stuff. So that's something that I've definitely reflected on and adjusted in this process so that I'm really focusing and honing in on being what does movement look like? And that's really me dedicating like at least 20 minutes. And that can be broken down to like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes after work. So I'm definitely adjusting what that looks like. And what's awesome is in my coaching app, I can, there's a plus sign beside it. So it's like I can actually add like individual, like separate situations. So if I did 5 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at lunch, and 5 after work, and then like 10 minutes at the end of day, those can all be individual entries, which was awesome. And what was cool too was looking at my overall value of being active. It was pretty close to like a 50-50 split, of like me feeling like I embodied being active. And that's the thing. I feel like my brain was very much like all or nothing of being like, oh, like if I've got an Orange 60 class, that's like 60 minutes today. And then like the next day I did like 0. And it was very drastic. And so definitely on those days when I did exercise separately, I felt a lot more active. So I wanted to just clarify that because I was realizing my brain in the process of all of that, like our mindset is such a huge part of this whole process. And I know I've mainly talked a lot about behavior change and that process and data, but along the way, some of the hiccups, some of the struggles, some of the obstacles will be ourselves, will be our own mind, will be what our brain is throwing at us in this process to either tell us it's too hard or that, we don't need to do that thing today. And so I realized that with my working out, where my brain was like, oh, well, you did 60-minute workout class. Like you don't need to do anything tomorrow. And really catching that in the moment was a process that I'm still navigating. And so that's something that I'm really looking at overall and wanting to refine my movement goal to just really dedicating specific time slots in the day, to just moving my body that does not have to do with a specific workout or exercise. Because attached to this is I'm really trying to increase my steps. So that's kind of like a separate component of it. And I really want to be moving my body more in the day. So with my water goal, I will like to say I am very impressed with myself because in the beginning, this was such a struggle. And now, like even just looking at my data from this past week, I successfully got 8 servings 3 days out of the week. And there were 2 other days that I was very close. So, but in the past month, which includes like my baseline data and like when I very first started, it was much lower. So my average is like about 5 servings out of 8. But what's cool is ever since that first week, it increased slowly. And I definitely got a lot of high days, and I just feel like each week I like increased my tools and strategies with my water intake. So that was one that I am really excited and proud of, that I feel like I've been like on like the progress and the path with this particular habit has been such a fun journey of really being able to navigate this. So just for context, like when it comes to water, I ended up buying like 3 different Stanley cups, a 20 ounce, a 30 ounce, a 40 ounce. And I was always using the 40 ounce in my car, but I actually just bought a brand new lunch bag for work, and it's got the little side pockets for drinks. And I also just bought a new work bag that is actually like a backpack, a very pretty backpack. It doesn't look like a backpack, and it also has the side pockets. And so I am a school-based BCBA, and so I go into schools a lot. I'll go do like 2 school visits a day, maybe sometimes 3. And a lot of the time I wasn't bringing water into the schools because I had an older like work bag, and it was just kind of like this open bag, and there was no place to put the water. So I never really carried it with me, and I just kind of kept my 40 ounce in the car. Um, but now that I've got like a lunch bag and this like new cute backpack, I have like basically like 2 separate water bottles attached to those bags, plus my 40 ounce that stays in my car more or less. So that when I'm driving, I've got that right there with me. And that has been like such a fun thing. And honestly, I say fun because like I had so much, like I felt like I was going back to school, like, like back to school shopping in like August. And I was just really excited to get all these, like, I got like this cute new lanyard, and I got a lunch bag and a new work bag. So there definitely was like novelty and excitement of like these new things to help create this routine. And so I started to get into this habit. So the past week has been really awesome, the past week and a half. So I'm definitely feeling a lot more confident with my water intake. And I also really just want to preface this. My journey with water intake has been absolutely insane the past like 6 months, past 8 months. I was a person that would never drink water in a day. Like I am telling you, like not even 1 serving of water in the day. I would not hydrate myself. I don't know how my body functioned, but like more or less my whole life, I was that person that would not drink water. So the fact that I am more or less, the average, it says just over 5 servings. So that's about 40 ounces a day, like on average in this past month. And it's getting better. Like this past week, it's like over 6 is my average for this past week, is amazing. And I'm so proud of it. And that habit is connected to being healthy. And I feel like the fact that I have been definitely reassessing and reflecting on my workouts and movement, as well as my water intake. And I also track like um, my fruits and veggie servings, which is definitely still a struggle that I'm figuring out. But water was like my number one priority, especially because I'm increasing my movement, and I just really wanted to make sure I had enough water in my body. And I definitely see like the progression there, which is really cool. However, here is my sticky spot. So, my habit of being mindful for 20 minutes was really embodying my value of being present. Now, this one very much has been a struggle with me. So, out of the 20 minutes of being mindful for this past month, my average was about 5 minutes. So, there were a lot of days where I had 0 or maybe just 5 minutes. There was 1 or 2 days that I had like, uh, that I did have 20 minutes. There's only a couple days in the past month. But this is what I realized. I realized a lot about this process of being present and what that means for me. And this is going to tie into my whole conversation in this episode about your bigger why and your purpose. So, right now, I'm feeling pretty confident and good with 2 out of the 3 of my habits and values. And I feel like I'm progressing decently with the other ones. I figured it out. I So, with that in mind, I just wanted to bring all of this back to our bigger why and our bigger purpose. So, being present is something that is so valuable to me. And I am realizing there's a bigger, deeper part. There's a much, there's a wounded inner child in me that feels very disconnected from my body and from being in the present moment. So there's definitely a lot of layers there. But when I think about, my bigger why and just really being able to understand what's going on. So I say all this because when we're going on this journey, there's going to be habits, there's going to be behaviors that we're not being successful in, that we are struggling with, that we do get frustrated with. And like I had that a lot so far this past month. Like I was just like, why am I not being more present? Why am I not taking the time to be mindful? And each week I would reflect and say, okay, Sonia, like here's the time that you're going to give yourself to be present. And that felt so uncomfortable. And when we think of our bigger why, that is why values based decisions are so key when we think of behavior change, because we can't just arbitrarily pick a behavior and just want to change it and leave it at that. It needs to be connected to your intrinsic motivation. It needs to be connected to who you desire to be when you are engaging in those specific habits. And I always say this to my clients, but it's not about the habit itself. It's about how you decide to show up for yourself on those hard days, in those tough seasons, when you have shit hit the fan. It's in those moments that it's not about the habit. It's not about the duration of, like how long did I engage in that habit? Like how many steps did I get today? Like it's just like on those hard days, in those challenging moments, how do you decide to show up for yourself, even if it is just 1 minute, even if it is just taking a breath and connecting with yourself, or journaling, or just giving yourself the space in those moments to look at the bigger picture, to have this like macro moment to say, this is bigger than me. And to help you with that is if you're struggling with a specific habit, I always come back to connecting with our value, which in that moment is, okay, I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling angry. I'm really annoyed right now. Okay, let's pause and ask ourselves, what do I want to be feeling instead? What is the value that I want to be embodying in this moment? So it could be, I want to feel peaceful, or a value of I want to, be more present. Those are things that connect us with who we are when we engage in these behaviors. And I feel like a lot of the time that can get missed or misinterpreted or just completely misunderstood Okay, don't say anything. So as I'm literally recording this right now, my computer has shut off 3 times. And so I hope this recording gets through to you. And as I'm speaking on my values and really connecting and all of these things, and here I am, my frustration is building. But let me just end it. Okay. Highly recommend not watching this one on YouTube because it's my Zoom that keeps freezing. So, what I wanted to really bring all of this together is when you are building a habit, building sustainability, trying to understand and move through the motions, when you have those frustrating moments, really giving yourself the space to reconnect to your value, reconnect to the feeling of what you want to be embodying, and then how you can take a tiny step towards that. And it might feel like a big, scary step, but thinking about something so tiny that might be related to that habit or not, right? Like the beauty of values is that they don't have to be attached to a specific habit, but rather, if I want to be present, that might not be mindfulness. That might be quality time with my husband. So there are many different factors at play that really allow us to think about these factors of values when it comes to our decisions, because values are connected to like our identity and who we are and who we desire to be and who we're becoming. And that's such a beautiful freaking thing. And so I love that in this journey, because if we are so fixated on the outcome, so fixated on that particular habit, checking off that specific box of that to-do list and that habit and these other things in our life, we're missing the point. When we don't connect it with who we want to be when we're engaging in those things, we're not allowing ourselves to really adopt and adhere to and evolve into that identity of that person that we desire to be and who we're becoming along the journey. So, this is really just encompassing all the key factors when it comes to how to build sustainable behavior change. And I wanted this one to be the last episode to really bring everything together, because I wanted this to really bring it all home that one, this is a journey. It is going to take a long time. It's not just going to take 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year to make these changes. We have to allow ourselves to make the mistakes, to make trial and error, to process things, to understand what obstacles are getting in our way without making that mean something about us, because we're always going to get pushed up against barriers and have struggles and have complete circumstances we have absolutely no control over, and that's life. So when we give ourselves the mindset of thinking, you know, this isn't going to be an overnight thing, and when I allow myself to look back at the bigger picture and reconnect with my value and understand that if I can tap into that value, even if I don't engage with that specific habit. So like I said, if I wanted to have, mindfulness 20 minutes was my specific habit, but maybe let's just say I am in a state of mind where I am just not there, but maybe my husband is there and can support me. And that in itself is me just being present. That's my value of being present. Maybe that is what my body needs in that moment. Or maybe being present is going for a walk with myself. And so maybe the habit looks different, but I'm still able to engage in that value. And so that's basically our anchoring point. That is where we can hone in and redirect ourselves back to getting on track and how to help ourselves slowly get back to where we desire to be is those values are our anchoring point, they're our North Star, they're really that ability to say, "Hey, I just got off track and I am so frustrated or I have no idea what's going on, but I can take a pause and say, I really want to embody being healthy right now or being active right now or just being in the moment right now. What can I do in this moment to help me achieve that or just embody that, regardless of whatever the habit is? You know what I mean? So, our values are that point for us to pause and redirect and catch ourselves in those moments and reconnect with that bigger why. So that is it for me. I feel like I could probably ramble on about this forever, but my computer's been super wonky, so, I mean, it's also been almost 40 minutes. So, let's end this here. This concludes my mini series all about how to take steps towards building sustainable behavior change. This is essentially the process that I go through with my clients in one-on-one coaching, and I'm currently navigating it myself, which has just been so freaking cool to share with all of you along the ride. And if you are interested, it is not publicly known just yet, but if you are interested in tracking your behaviors, understanding your behaviors, building that sustainable behavior change for yourself, and being able to support your mindset and your identity and your values along the way, shoot me a message on Instagram at soniajmac.coaching and let's connect. And I'm going to be sharing more details about my one-on-one coaching. In June, July. And that is what I have for you in my very first mini series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to reach out to me in the DMs or send me an email and let me know if any of this resonated or if you want to share your story. I would be so happy to hear it. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Okay, bye guys.